This video is sponsored by Manta Sleep. No matter who you are, or where you're from, or what game franchises you're into or not into, there's one thing all of us have in common. We all gotta sleep. The benefits are, quite frankly, out of this world. And if there's one thing a lot of us sleepers struggle with, especially those of us who like to play games or stare at screens a lot, it's falling asleep, or staying asleep, or waking up feeling energized after sleeping. But thanks to the ridiculously soft and comfortable Manta Sleep masks, the future is looking pretty damn bright. Which is ironic because the masks are blackout masks which block out all light. I can't see anything. Now, using a blackout mask to help fall asleep is already a pretty cool idea, but Manta Sleep takes it one step further by buffing their sleep masks with special effects. I have the Manta Cool mask because I run warm, and the C-shaped eye cups put no pressure on my actual eyeballs while applying a very light pressure around them, which feels really good. It also keeps my face cool, and I've noticed that I wake up with less sinus pressure after sleeping with it, which is something that I struggle with a lot in my personal life. So if you're a person who sleeps, and I know you are, check out Manta Sleep by following the link in the description below and using the code BANDITGAMES for 10% off your order. You'll thank me later. And now, on to the video. This is not my computer? Where is it? We like lore here at Bandit Games, and some of it can get pretty weird, which we also like. Take The Legend of Zelda for instance. Did you know that Zelda is the girl and Link is the guy? I know, 99% of you did, but you just know there's someone watching this right now that didn't know that. And if that's you, no worries, I'm not judging you. But let's talk about some of the actual weird lore this fantastic franchise has to offer. At the end of the original Legend of Zelda, Link saves Princess Zelda, who returns to her kingdom to rule. 6 years later, Link embarks on another quest in Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link to save another, ancienter Princess Zelda who has been slumbering Sleeping Beauty style in an eternal nap for who knows how long. At the end of this game, that Zelda awakens, meaning at this point on the timeline, there are two Princess Zeldas alive at the same time. Maybe they ruled together, or maybe they fought for the throne, or maybe the new old Zelda just lived her new life as a commoner. Who knows? Speaking of the timeline, something that lots of fans don't know or don't really think about is that since the third timeline branch, the Fallen timeline, is considered a canonical branch of the timeline, that also means that the events that made it happen are to be considered canon as well. Which is to say that according to the lore of the franchise, Link must canonically die to Ganondorf in Ocarina of Time for this entire timeline to exist. However, since all three timelines are equally canon, and the other two are dependent on him not dying, this means that canonically, the Hero of Time both lived and died at the end of Ocarina of Time. Mind-blowing. And if Link dies and spawns the Fallen timeline, when Link dies and spawns the Fallen timeline, for some reason, the beloved Zora race, which used to be friendly to Hylians, becomes evil, and even worse, they become green for the entirety of their Fallen timeline appearances, while remaining friendly in the adult and child. Maybe they just really miss Link in the Fallen timeline. And speaking of the Zora, in the adult timeline, they have evolved, trading their former fishy fins for wings and becoming the Rito tribe, causing the Zora as they were to go extinct. However, in the era of the wild, both of these races, the evolved Rito and the devolved Zora, are present in Hyrule at the same time. Of course, there are theories to explain this weird bit of lore, and in Tears of the Kingdom, we have proof that there are other Zora tribes outside of Hyrule, which may have evolved differently than the other Zora, but it's still a bit weird nonetheless. The game Link's Awakening originally took place after the twin games Oracle of Seasons and Ages, but when the Link's Awakening remake came out, it was switched to now take place before the two games. What's weird about this though is that it's not just another Zelda adventure on the timeline that can pretty much be stuck anywhere given that they all deal with the same kind of concept. It's legitimately the continued adventure of the same Link who first appeared in A Link to the Past, and also appears in the Oracle games. So apparently the timeline of Link's adventures in the world of Hyrule is changeable. But enough about the weird timeline and the weird timeline shenanigans. Speaking of A Link to the Past, in Kakariko Village, inside one of the houses of the informant women, Link can find a cuckoo underneath one of the pots. If he sprinkles a little magic powder on it, it will transform into a human cuckoo hybrid, even clucking before speaking incomplete sentences. At least the human cuckoo appears more or less okay, just a bit uncomfortable in their new human form, but who isn't uncomfortable in their human form, am I right? Go Ghosts in The Legend of Zelda are called Poes. Well, typically speaking anyway. Sometimes, though, there are other kinds of ghosts that look and act differently than their Poe counterparts. And one such recurring ghost would be the hand in the toilet, which appears in Majora's Mask, Oracle of Ages, and Skyward Sword. Apparently it was based off of an old Japanese folklore tale about like a ghost grabbing you from the toilet or something like that, but it's still a weird lore addition for the world of Zelda. And all it ever wanted is just some paper so it can finally wipe and move on from this world. Speaking of Poes though, in Ocarina of Time, Link can catch Poe spirits in bottles after defeating them in combat in order to sell them to the Poe collector. However, if Link decides to use the bottle within which he has entrapped a Poe before selling it, he won't release it back into the world like he does with bugs or pour it out like he does with water. He will drink it, which may heal him or hurt him. So yeah, in Hyrule, vengeful spirits of the dead can be drunk, like a milkshake. There are many links across the series, and now thanks to games like Four Swords Adventures and most recently Tears of the Kingdom, we know that there are also many Ganondorfs. This means that just like the spirit of the hero keeps Link coming back age after age, there must also be a spirit that keeps Ganondorf coming back. A spirit of the villain, or spirit of the anti-hero, if you will. Which means, fortunately, that we've probably not seen the last of the beloved Gerudo Warchief villain. You know, this one wasn't really that weird. I'm not sure why I put this on the list. But speaking of the Gerudo in the era of the Wild, they have pointy ears, which fits in with everybody else in Hyrule, but originally in Ocarina of Time, the Gerudo's ears were all rounded. Deep lore explains this change as due to years and years of interbreeding with Hylians and eventually picking up their pointy ear genes, but either way, it is a strange piece of lore to have originally created and then kind of retconned for the era of the Wild, especially since the newest iteration of Ganondorf didn't really seem to get the memo. Speaking of the ancient Gerudo, the leader that opposed Ganondorf in Ocarina of Time was called Nabooru, who, fun fact, is the individual that Vanaboris is named after. Who's Vanaboris, you ask? Oh, it's this colossal mechanical animal called a divine beast that was a huge deal in Breath of the Wild, but then vanished into thin air before Tears of the Kingdom. Anyway, when the Hero of Time first meets her in the Spirit Temple as a child, she needs him to crawl through a little child-shaped hole in the wall that she can't fit in and retrieve a treasure for her. She promises to do something great for him if he gets her treasure. Which sounds well enough. I mean, doing something great for somebody could mean many things. But once Link talks to her as an adult after having beaten the Spirit Temple 7 years later, she says that if she had known he would become such a handsome man, she would have kept the promise she made to him when he was a kid. Which really only means one thing since it's related to Link being handsome. So yeah, Kid Link was promised a favor in order to get him to do what Nabooru wanted. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave that one alone. Later on, Link lives out the rest of his days in his original kid form and goes on to his next adventure in the land of Termina. And within the land of Termina, aliens come at night to abduct cows. I'm not kidding, aliens from another planet, only referred to as them, show up at night and abduct cows. And even little girls if Link is not able to fend them off, wiping her memories and leaving her catatonic, a shell of her former self, beating her head every now and then. Creepy. It is no secret that Link and Zelda are connected throughout the series, but this connection is sometimes heavily implied to be romantic in nature, such as in Skyward Sword or the era of the Wild games, and sometimes it's heavily implied to be familial, as in siblings, such as in A Link to the Past and Ocarina of Time. Now, neither of these connections have ever been explicitly proven in the games, which means this is more theoretical, but for the vast majority of the fanbase, either a familial or romantic relationship between the two might as well be a proven fact. Or both, depending on which game you're talking about. As long as we don't go full Game of Thrones with this franchise though, I'll be okay. And Link and Zelda and Ganondorf aren't the only people that keep respawning over the years. So does Beetle, so does Impa, so does Dompe, so do Tetra's Pirates, and so does Tingle. But not every citizen of Hyrule reincarnates, so this means that there are probably other specific reincarnating spirits. Perhaps there's also a spirit of the merchant for Beetle, and a spirit of the protector for Impa, and maybe even a spirit of the man in tights for Tingle. And speaking of the man in tights, not only is it weird enough that he's a 35-year-old fairy boy, and a poser fairy boy at that, but in his Wind Waker appearance, there was a poor sea-bound sailor named David Jr. who was unfortunate enough to be in a shipwreck one stormy night. He was fortunate enough to not lose his life at sea, but was again unfortunate enough to be washed ashore at Tingle Island, where he was found by Tingle and enslaved immediately. And when he woke up, get this, Tingle had already changed his clothes into the tights he's wearing now, and he's currently forced to work for Tingle for the rest of his days. What's the line? Tingle, tingle, kulu limpa? Also, according to the events of the Wind Waker, long ago, the Triforce of Courage was broken into multiple pieces and scattered across the Great Sea. And everybody should know what the Triforce is at this point, so I probably don't have to explain that to you, but this means that the omnipotent, all-wish-granting Triforce is a physical relic that can be physically broken, which doesn't really mean anything, but it's just kind of weird to think about. The famous Song of Storms from Ocarina of Time was both taught to Link and created by him. See, as an adult, this angry little man in the windmill hut teaches Link the tune by playing it on his phonogram, claiming that a mean kid played it in front of him 7 years ago and made the windmill spin faster than ever, which is why he's so pissed. After this, when Link travels back in time by 7 years, Link plays the Song of Storms in front of the man, becoming the very same mean kid that made the angry man so angry and taught him the song. We love a good time looping paradox. There are no female Gorons. Think about it. Have you ever seen one? Every Goron calls every other Goron brother, and a lot of them even sport beards, which is, you know, testosterone. Some people claim to have seen an interview with the Ocarina of Time script supervisor, Toru Osawa, where he apparently states that there are female Gorons, but their physical appearances are so similar to male Gorons that you can't really tell them apart, and they all refer to themselves with the same pronouns, which I guess explains the brother bit. If this is to be believed, then any one of the Gorons could actually be female, including Daruk. But I wasn't able to find a source for this quote, so I'm not sure if it's real. And according to some brand new Tears of the Kingdom lore, the Goron known as Trey claims that Gorons are actually born of the land, as in they just kind of pop out of a rock eventually. Either way though, there are no apparent females in the race, which is weird because, you know, females are pretty cool. Last but not least, in Breath of the Wild, one of the funniest things to do with the dreaded Yiga clan Blade Masters is taunt them with bananas. They are truly bananas about bananas. Their leader is even called the top banana of the Yiga clan. But the Yiga used to be Sheikah, and the Sheikah, at least the ancient ones, share this same banana affection. If you drop a banana in front of Monk Maz Koshia, which is the only ancient Sheikah you're able to be around in gameplay, he will, do this, exactly like Yiga Blade Masters. Are they an ancient race of monkey people? Who knows? I can't fault them though. I also share their banana affection. That was the list. How many did you know? Comment below with the number. If you learned something new, leave a like. And if you learned 3 or more new things, you should totally subscribe. If you learned nothing, I'm impressed. But you should probably subscribe anyway because clearly you like video game lore and that's exactly what this channel is all about. And of course, if there were some weird lore discoveries I missed, let me know that as well in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching and let me know if you enjoyed this new, lighter style of lore video. If you did, I'll probably make more. Huge thanks as always to my bandit crew, of which I have a new name to announce. Say hello to Chaz Carlson, who just joined up. If you'd like to help support the channel and keep it alive, feel free to follow the links below. That's all I've got for this one, so be sure to follow me on my socials, and I'll see you next time. This is Bandit, signing out. Peace!